Hey guys, so I thought I'd take a look at some self-propelled artillery today. This is the M7 Priest. I'm sure many of you know exactly what it is. And what's ironic about this particular piece of equipment is it uses the exact same gun, pretty much, as the gun that I still use in my active service as a reservist in the artillery. The 105mm gun that you're seeing on this Priest is still to this day being utilized by the Canadian Forces, a fantastic piece of equipment, primarily actually using avalanche control. Some of my members of my unit are actually doing it. But this is an absolutely beautiful piece of equipment. The M7 Priest is basically a Sherman with a howitzer on the top of it. You can see though, just in terms of its arc of fire, not a huge amount of pivot. You don't need it to be, because of course you have these beautiful tracks to turn the tank where you need to be. And I call it a tank because the reality is this could be also utilized as a tank. The howitzer in its configuration, indirect fire. But if you really wanted to challenge another armored vehicle with a 105mm round, you could definitely do so. And something what I really like about this particular vehicle is its name. HE Padre, high explosive Padre, of course, being the Priest. Padres is what we have in the military, of course, as our priests. This is an American one with the beautiful American star on the side of here, but an absolutely gorgeous piece of equipment. You can actually see on the side here, so we have our charges. So inside of here are all the cartridges. So the cartridges would have the charge bags inside of there, 7 of each in each cartridge container. It looks like this is actually the kind of, I guess, the onloading and offloading side compartment, which is kind of interesting. Something we always consider when we're working on vehicles of these kinds is how do we load ammunition on and off, right? How do we replenish our artillery weapon systems? Because if you can't feed the weapon system appropriately and get ammunition downrange, then it's not really very efficient. So this is really interesting to see the logistics have actually been taken into consideration when changing out these cartridges. So we come to the back here, you can see obviously just basic logistical storage and all of the tank stores, which you take into consideration on the back. Tank stores, these are inherently really important. This can actually be life and death stuff. If you cannot recover your vehicle or self-recover your vehicle in a battle scenario, you're in trouble, and you'll be amazed at how many times a shovel and a pickaxe has actually saved me from being in some really awkward conversations with recovery mechanics when I was in the British Army with the Remy. It even looks like on the back of here, looks like we've got a tripod for a 50 cal or maybe an M2 Browning here, heavy duty tripod. And what's also kind of interesting on the back here is there's a rather large wooden ladder, of course I would assume to get on and off of the vehicle. Being this is an artillery weapon system, it's primarily going to be stationary, so you want something that you can get in and out quite easily if there's a fire mission. So I'm not entirely sure, but my assumption is that ladder is probably placed in a position of the vehicle where people can get on and off quickly. If you're not in a fire mission, so you're not actively engaged in indirect fire, most of the gun crews relax. They're out in the tent, they're kind of chilling out. But with this particular configuration, it allows you to quickly get up there if there's a fire mission called over on the net. It's the exact same that we have today when we have self-propelled guns. We have the rear door that allow the gun crew to get quickly into the vehicle, because the crews aren't always on guard and all ready to go. They're relaxing. You know, sometimes fire missions can take days, sometimes even weeks to come through. And with this kind of configuration, you don't want to have to be climbing up and down to try and get into the vehicle. You could injure yourself. So it's kind of interesting there's a ladder on top of there, and that's only an assumption. I'm not saying that's the truth. You can see on the side here we have a spare sprocket. Again, you know, anything extra you can carry on the vehicle to keep you going is very, very important. These sprockets always fascinate me, the way in which, you know, they're quite intricate in their design, in the way in which they're casted. You know, the sprockets on larger tanks that I'm used to, they're fairly simple, but you can see all the divots and different sort of weight-saving properties that they put on these sprockets. It's kind of interesting. And once again, here you go, all right, 105mm HE M1 round shell. These are all fused, so these are actually projectiles, high explosive round M1 rounds. So these rounds, exactly the same rounds I'm used to using, 2-part ammunition, high explosive projectile, cartridge case with 7 charge bags inside there. Nothing really changes. Time is pretty much standard to the World War II artillery. It's very interesting. And as we come around to the front, you know, standard sloped armor. What is interesting about this vehicle is it does have the 50 caliber on top of there to defend itself. I would probably say more so in this configuration, it's protecting against that, which is an aircraft, okay? In terms of defense of the gun line or defense of these self-propelled weapon systems, you're gonna have supporting artillery gunners in fire positions to support them. In World War II, I would assume more so though that 50 caliber is to kind of engage low-flying aircraft, because aircraft are going to be able to scoot around the flanks or up into the lines of the artillery, and artillery, of course, are a very important asset. So if an aircraft can knock out an artillery battery of priests, that's a good juicy target for them. So that 50 caliber is going to give them a little bit more protection. But of course, coming back down to the front here, We do have the driver's spot. Not a huge amount of protection, in all honesty. You know, it's almost about, I'd say, ½ inch thick of steel. Not much. It's really not going to do much in terms of protection in this vehicle. Small arms fire, even indirect fire, this is highly at risk. If you're a gunner on this particular piece of equipment, you're not going to have overhead cover. And I actually had a really interesting conversation with a fellow YouTuber came over. He's from South America. I'll make sure I put it in the description box. He was talking about how he has seen a lot of German you know, artillery pieces in the same kind of configuration, the M7 Priest, having a little bit more of a canopy to the elements. It's not enjoyable working in snowy conditions, super hot conditions, even on a day like today. If you're in a fire mission for prolonged periods of time, the sun beats down on you, it's a tough day. So you got to remember what the crews were doing in these things in World War II. Exposure to the elements is a big deal. So, you know, if you're in a tank, you're in a cast iron hull or whatever kind of protection you have, this, no, you ain't got any of it. And as I said, for aircraft, this is a very juicy target. But the benefit of having a vehicle of this kind is you can get out of here quickly. So if we're in a fire mission, we did get some form of engagement, driver spools up, throw the equipment into the back, throw that ladder onto the back, and off we go. So this is truly, in my eyes, like a very old school, primitive, self-propelled gun. But in my own personal opinion, it still has full authority to be used even in today's conflicts. You could easily put an M7 Priest into a modern conflict right now with that 105 and do just as much as what a 105 would do as just a field gun. So a lot of respect for the Priest, and you know, if one day I get to the opportunity to drive one or even fire one, that'd be kind of cool, but I'm just daydreaming. Anyway, let's go take a look at some of the vehicles.